we have Charles Wlodarczak. I hope I got that right this time. And Charles, can you just give us a little bit about yourself for everyone that doesn't know you?
Yeah, so I competed for Canada for skeleton from 2006 till 2013. Back and forth, was on the national team. Didn't quite get to the top level. Unfortunately, I wasn't as physically gifted as some of the athletes I've now ended up coaching. And then immediately after retiring after the Olympic trials in 2013, I got into coaching. Started with just coaching some friends, Sean Greenwood with Ireland, helped him make the Olympics. Did a little bit of contract coaching with Korea because I knew their head coach, and a little bit with the Swedish team, which was kind of interesting and fun. And then starting in 2014, the Koreans approached me when I was helping out some local development sliders about doing some part-time coaching with them for 2014-15, which went like, I guess you couldn't have gone better. We won the first ever Asian sliding medal for luge, bobsleigh, or skeleton. So that was pretty exciting. And then that kind of turned into a full-time contract. So from 2014 to 2018 Olympics, I coached with Korea as their national team coach and then their general manager. And then since then, I've done some work with Canada, and currently I'm with Britain. And I spent most of the time, my bulk of my work's been with the Koreans, but definitely a diverse group. It's kind of funny when you go from athlete to coach. A lot of people go through the whole process, provincial team, up, community coach. I just fell right into the top level and have been there since.
So when Korea kind of recruited you, did you do a lot of that coaching remotely here from Canada, or did you just move out there right away?
No, actually, the Koreans run a really interesting system, which I think favors us North Americans. In the summer, they don't want you involved for the most part. They email you, you talk to your athletes, but they very much run their own physical training. They have their own guys. They ask you questions. They want input, but you stay in Canada. They're in Korea. The skeleton team and bobsleigh team are really cool. They'd come to Calgary for a month every year. So we did a lot of time at COP. Some of them actually came by Peak Power a couple times to do some training. Talisman, Windsport, all the places. And then they'd go home, and then we'd usually meet up for full time late September, early October. And then you're basically with them for the whole winter. Okay. They were mindful and always got us some weeks at home, but they take the Korean perspective when you do sport is you're all in. It's 365 days a year. Their athletes get a grand total of about 25 days at home a year. At least the ones in bobsleigh and skeleton, and I think luge. I can't speak for their summer sports, but when they're all in, they're all in.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense with that sort of culture over there and an Olympic sport, right, where they're going all in, going for the medals.
Yeah,
I'm sure it's similar for every other Olympic sport over there. They're probably not getting a whole lot of time off, especially if they're going to be state sponsored.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So how far did you end up going with that team there in Korea?
Well, I worked with them from 2014 till 2018. We were really successful. It was a small team. We had maximum 3 athletes. There was myself and another coach. And Sungbin won, I think it was 25 medals over 4 years.
Wow.
I think he had 5 golds, world champs overall, 2 second place overall. And then also obviously it culminated with the gold medal in 2018, which it couldn't have gone better. We said the whole time goal was a medal just to keep the mind frame.
Yeah.
Keep them focused. Like if you set the gold and you win the silver, you can walk away with a sour taste. But you gotta say he was a consummate pro. He was like, I just want a medal for my country. And we achieved the goal, and job done. Everyone's happy. His life's changed, and you move on to the challenges.
Yeah, it's definitely a good thing there to kind of keep the expectations sort of low and then keep the standards high, right? Because especially coming from a country that's never won a gold in that sport before, right? You can't just run in with the mentality of, okay, we're going to try our best to win, even though it's never been done in this country before. You kind of have to set that expectation a little lower and then still gun for the top.
Yeah, exactly. And also by saying a medal, their media is crazy. If we'd said, we're going to win a gold, he would have had all that pressure on him. There was obviously, he said the whole time, if I walk away with the bronze, silver, gold, I'm happy. It's for the country. And the bobsled guy won a silver in the 4-man. And he was everyone wants to win gold, but you ask him and he's completely happy with a silver.
Oh yeah.
So it's perspective, but like a lot of guys get fixated on the gold and then they win silver, and it's like you do realize you were just the best person on the day one time in 4 years.
Yeah. I feel like there's kind of two different types of people that win medals there. There's the people that are really gunning for gold and then they get silver or bronze and then they're just sour about it. And then there's the people that are kind of just going in there like, I want to win a medal or I want to do my best. And then they end up getting gold, silver, or bronze. And then they're happy with their performance, right?
Yeah, if you take the perspective you're going to celebrate the success, then you'll walk away feeling good about yourself. I mean, our number 2 guy, who wasn't even expected to come top 12, came 6th.
Yeah.
And he's to this day, he's happy about it because he celebrated his success, his achievement. He worked for it and came 6th. And like, he didn't even think he'd break the top 12 before we went in.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely good to kind of look at the success and not just, oh, I didn't win, so I'm the worst. Right?
Yeah.
Because top 6 at the Olympics, that's obviously a great achievement.
Well, I remember early on in my sporting career, a guy that coached me, Duff Gibson, would always say to be the best over 2 days or 1 day every 4 years, like think of how hard that is.
Oh yeah.
So if you come top 3, you've been one of the top 3 performers in the world 1 or 2 days every 4 years. Like that's, you can't take that away from anyone, and how hard that is to do. It's insane.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's to mention like all the other competitions that go out through the year or like through the entire quad, right? Because you can still win gold at World Cup every year leading up to the Olympics, and that's still a major achievement.
Oh, for sure. Like
Yeah.
the top skeleton guy, Martins Dukers, he's won 50 gold medals. He's
Yeah.
won 50 races since 2009. Like that's insane. He's the
Yeah.
Tiger Woods of skeleton, but like even he at the Olympics, he has 2 silvers, and he's perfectly happy with them.
Yeah.
But like that's how hard it is to win a gold at the Olympics. Like you have to be the best person on that day, and you have 2 minutes in 4 years.
Yeah. And you have all those other people that are working just as hard, if not harder than you, to be the best person on that day as well.
Yeah, and it depends, like your program, like if you're Canada or Korea, Great Britain peaks for only the Olympics. Their entire quadrennial focus is the Olympics.
Yeah.
Canada, we target world championships and the Olympics. I mean, obviously every country's targeting World Cups and World Champs, but you got countries that literally they throw every ounce of their funding to only achieve at the Olympics. Whereas then you're Canadians. I mean, we have benchmarks. So if you want funding, you need to do this and that. So the focus gets divided over the 4 years. Like we definitely, when I was with Korea, we're focused on the Olympics, but we also had step-by-step building blocks. This year we want to achieve this many podiums. Next year we're hoping for top this at World Champs. And then Germans just want to win all the time. They literally want to win every race. So they don't hold stuff back.
Yeah.
Like we were talking about periodization. Like you can periodize the quad.
Yeah.
How you want to, you can go linear, you can go diverse. It just depends. But that's how every decision makes it more difficult for every competitor.
Yeah. Because if your only absolute goal for the entire quad is the Olympics, that makes your periodization so much simpler. Right. But if you're trying to peak multiple times and win multiple races, it gets so much more complicated.
Well, yeah, because you can do 8 to 10 races in a skeleton or bobsleigh season, depending on like how you set it up. So you got to be able to compete at all those races, and you have to make the decision. Am I going to try and win these races? Am I peaking physically for certain ones? Am I using my best equipment? Or am I keeping everything a little below my optimal to save it for the big day?
Yeah.
And then in the bobsleigh and skeleton are actually very similar. You can break up your training over the 4 years. Like year 1 could be just more focusing on general preparation. Year 2, you could do strength. Year 3, okay, we're going to do more speed work. Like you can actually break it up over the 4 years to have a focus. So then the 4th year, you're in your window.
Yeah. Yeah. And then like you were saying before, depending on your country's system, right, there's a whole lot of sociological factors that go into that, because every country is going to be funding that differently. So every country is taking a look at each competition differently.
Yeah, exactly. Like Canada, top 8 at World Champs is really important for the athlete.
Yeah.
It depends on the sport. At bobsleigh skeleton, it's top 8. Different marker, which can affect funding. I mean, we're all Canadian. We know we don't have the funding of the Americans with some of our programs. So like, it's important for the athlete to have that top level funding.
Yeah.
So there's those factors as well. When you're in a country like Korea, Great Britain's got a good system. Germany, they heavily fund the athletes. The athletes have like they're full time, whereas in Canada and the US, we're not necessarily full time athletes. We want to be, but most of us still have to go work a job.
Yeah. And that's kind of the thing you can get away with in a country where they're fully funding their athlete is the athlete doesn't necessarily have to perform at every competition as long as they're hitting their benchmarks in training, right? Then it's not as important to hit everything at those not as important competitions.
Yeah, exactly. The interesting side of it though is like as a Canadian, if we have our top level funding and still work and still end up achieving the goal, it definitely, I think it almost has a sweeter taste because you
Oh
did
yeah.
it your way.
Yeah. Yeah. You did it the hard way.
So like
Yeah.
every country's got its different system, and I don't think any of them are right or wrong. They're just different.
Yeah.
Like, and but I would wager like most Canadians, we would love to be funded like some of the other programs. Some programs for sure are in our sports system, and some are. Like I know talking to you and Rob, like weightlifting's not as funded as much.
Yeah.
But
0% funding in weightlifting.
yeah, but there's something to be said for doing it your way. Like you could get your top level senior A funding and still work, and it gives you a different perspective and maybe a different motivator. Some people would rather work 2 days a week and train than only have training. I think we can
Yeah.
learn with COVID, sitting at home all the time training. Well, fun for like a month, you're like, okay, I need some social contact. I need to do some stuff. Like it keeps the mind clean.
Yeah. And you can only put so much of your time towards training, right? Whereas if you're a full-time athlete, you put in your 6 days a week, you have a day off, but then you still have, we'll say you're only training 4 hours a day. You still have that whole big chunk of time out of the day to do other stuff. And as long
Yeah,
as that other stuff isn't stressful, right? If you're working kind of a chillax job, then it might
yeah.
not be so bad. But if you're going and doing manual labor, then that's going to be detracting from your training. But at the same time, if you have nothing to do and then you just go home and you're a couch potato and you play video games for the rest of the day, that's also going to detract from your training.
Yeah, it gets monotonous just training, training, training. You need to like sit at home, but like you said, are you going to crush video games? Are you going to go
Yeah.
out? Like you have to have something to fill the space,
Yeah.
which I think is where Canadians, we kind of have an advantage. We're pretty good at filling the space.
Yeah.
We find things to do. We work, we create opportunities. But if you're from a culture where like it's ingrained, you're a full-time athlete, then they're used to it. But if we were put in that environment, I think we would struggle because we're just like, well, no, I need to go to work. I need my 4 hours or I need my
Yeah.
6.
Yeah. And that's where the cultural differences come in. So let's kind of move on just a little bit to what the planning you were using for your quad was. So do you have any strategies or kind of tips that you could impart to any aspiring coaches that are listening that you use to plan over the course of a quad rather than just a season?
Well, for sure, the first thing I actually did was learn the culture to learn what's acceptable.
Yeah.
Because North America, Canada, US, our idea of what like acceptable rest is a lot different than Asian cultures. So first thing I had to do was establish, okay, what's acceptable, what's going to work. So my idea of a rest day was not going to work because it's just different.
So what was your idea of a rest day then versus what they're
they'll
saying?
do we did full days off, but like they're
Yeah.
definitely 6 days a week. And if you guys were doing like an off day, your off day you might do tempo and some stretching.
Yeah.
That's like the morning warm up. So there definitely I had to learn the culture, and then we broke it down into, okay, year one we were just basically having to like show what we could do, because you definitely I was a brand new coach, my colleague who came in, we were both like, okay, we need to show what we can do. But their strength coach had a really good plan. He made sure he built in rest weeks. We told him which races we were going to target. We're like, these are the 3 races we think we have a best shot at a medal.
Yeah.
So he catered his periodization to his rest weeks coincided with those races.
Yeah.
So by learning the culture and taking the time, we were able to, we want to target these races. But by the time we got to World Camps, everyone was bad because your first year you're figuring it out.
Hold on just one
Years
sec
2,
there.
3, and 4.
You cut out there for a second. Can you just repeat that last bit?
about the first year?
Yeah. Just the
Yeah.
last like 15 seconds.
Yeah. So the first year, by learning the culture, we were able to set up a plan to maximize the results in the first year and be ready for world champs. But in all honesty, everyone was burned out by world champs because it was just like go, 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 figure it out.
Yeah.
Year 2, 3, 4, by having established a really good relationship with all the staff, learning what worked, what didn't, we were able to like break it up and be like, hey, this is what we're going to do with equipment in year 1, year 2, year 3, leading into the quad. These are the races we feel good about. These are the tracks we need more runs at. And we would communicate that all to the strength coach, sprint coach. So we would have like a coalesced version. I wouldn't call it your traditional periodization because also we were building for the Olympics.
Yeah.
But you definitely can go look at the results and look at the push time and see, like, there's some weeks we came fresher into. And it was like, this week we're going to focus on testing equipment. So we're not really worried about the physical side. This week we think we can win. Let's go for it. And just moving that along, because ultimately they were making we had a trainer who set up the physical training, but he was really good. He would communicate with us like, we're going to do a lot of training in the summer. When are you doing high volume? Okay, we got high volume of sliding, which is really neurologically draining. I will back off.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't call it your traditional periodization, but definitely with the communication, we were able to, like, year 2 was a lot of work. They did a ton of physical work. We had to get ready for year 3 and 4. So I would say year 1, we were figuring it out. Year 2, they definitely put a lot of work into the strength training. Year 3, our guy got faster, as did the number 2 guy. And then year 4, it was just like, okay, what are we going to do to be in position to be ready to go at the Olympics?
Yeah.
And it was fine tuning. So having the communication and learning the culture allowed us to say, okay, this is our goal. And work back from the end point. Here's the end. How are we going to get here with everyone in one piece?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we want to do strength. Okay, perfect. We want to do speed. Okay, perfect. Okay, year 3. Okay, we want to get there. I find if you look at the end goal and then work back, it's a lot easier than starting at the start to the end goal, because you know there's going to be bumps along the way. Nothing's going to go perfect.
Yeah.
Like if somebody gets hurt, okay, well, we know working back, we're here. Where are we going to switch? But if you start in one place and are trying to get to the finish, you're looking at it as limited days.
Yeah. Yeah. That's kind of the same way that we look at it in weightlifting, right? Is you look at, okay, what's the competition day? Now we're going to take a step back. What's that last week going to look like? And then take another step back and kind of go week by week, month by month, figure out where we need to be, rather than just starting somewhere and being like, okay, we're just going to walk this direction.
Yeah. I mean, if you don't look at the end goal and work back, I think you're always chasing. And if you're always chasing, you're going to rush, you're going to make mistakes, you're going to feel an urgency. But if you have the trust of, like, your athletes, the coaches, the staff, and you work back from the end goal, there's definitely more unison and everyone feels like they're part of the big picture.
Yeah. And that's something that's kind of interesting to hear you talk about, that Asian culture there, is that it sounds like everyone's kind of on the same page, everyone's working together, and it's a really unified system. Do you think that's more so part of Asian culture than it would be in Canada?
Well, it definitely, like, in Korea, we had it was one team, one goal. I've never seen a team where bobsleigh and skeleton were like best friends.
Yeah.
Generally, there's a little bit of division amongst them. It's just a historic thing. There's no real reason, but everyone knew the end goal. But we also have to remember they had funding. They all lived, breathed together.
Yeah.
Canada, in an ideal world, you get close to that, but we definitely have more independence.
Yeah.
And then independence breeds, like, you're not going to have 6-10 people all with the same end goal. Mm-hmm. Definitely staff can get on the same page. Athletes, because it's individual, and, like, let's be serious. If you and me were competing and you came 7th and I came 8th, we're on the same funding. But if I came 8th and someone else came 9th, I get the funding, you don't. So that individuality makes it more difficult. Whereas in an Asian culture, they have those markers, but they wouldn't affect each other in the same way. I don't think. I definitely do not know their sports system inside and out. I just know the bit I knew.
Yeah.
But because of the way our model is, our individuality will make it more difficult to that big one inclusive system. I definitely think when you get to the Olympics, the atmosphere, like I hung around with a bunch of the Canadian guys at the Pyeongchang games. It definitely was. We're Team Canada. But the build up there and the process will be more challenging because of the fact you're still all in competition with each other.
Yeah, I guess that kind of does have its pros and cons, especially depending on how individual or how team-centric the sport is. Because if it's a totally individual sport, that working against each other can be beneficial because it's motivating to have someone pushing you, right?
Exactly.
But if it's something where you're supposed to be working together at a team and some people are getting bumped up and down on the ladder on the team, that's where it can start to have some divisions.
Yeah, I unfortunately I don't know a lot about team sports in Canada, but I'd imagine they would have a pretty good team environment. Like that's generally like we're pretty good with that. But
Yeah.
we all our individual winter sports, like the ones I know, everyone's there for their goal and they work together as much as you can, but you're never going to be able to have the same as like an Asian culture that has them all working together.
Yeah.
Which is I mean, like we talked about earlier, it's different. It can be good, it can be bad, it could be neutral. It's definitely a different environment.
Yeah.
Like leading into Vancouver, I was on the team, and definitely like once we got 2-3 months out, we were all there to help the team. Even though they all were individuals competing for the same goal, everyone by and large worked together to try and get the ultimate result. But to get to that point, it takes a lot of work.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't all just happen overnight, right? It's 4 years of putting in that work and working together.
Yeah, and like if you're with 4 or 5 guys that work together for 4 years, you build a rapport.
Yeah.
But there's always the hot shot that comes in the year of. There's always a guy or girl that comes out of nowhere, right? And they show up and they're new and they change the environment. But I mean, that shakeup can be good too.
Yeah. Yeah, everything has its pros and cons depending on what the system is, what the culture is.
Yeah, it's like every country's got their own system and they all have strengths and weaknesses, and it's what works best for each individual athlete. And I think it's moved a lot towards, especially in Canada, we've moved a lot towards engaging the athletes on what'll work for them to make them their best and what can we do to make them their best.
Yeah, so that it's not just all on the athletes, so that it's more of a team effort, right? Building that relationship.
Yeah, we've to like Canada and Great Britain, who I'm currently contracting with, definitely like you got to get the collaborative system. The authoritarian, model when I came up as an athlete, it's definitely on its way out. It's more of a collaborative environment. Like we're going to create a high performing winning culture that maximizes each athlete and what's best for them. And doing that will help us that don't have the same system be in position to be the best on the day every 4 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because when you can kind of put that effort into the system and the culture, it becomes a little more self-perpetuating than if you just make it authoritarian with the specific athlete.
Well, and they'll trust you. And I mean, like we know in coaching, like you got to get the athlete to trust you. If they don't trust you, they're not going to perform their best and you're not going to perform your best.
Yeah. Yeah, because as soon as they don't trust you, then they're kind of just looking at their program and they're like, okay, should I really do this? Should I go off and do this other thing? And then you don't trust them to do what you're saying, and then it all kind of just breaks down.
Yeah, like they got to trust the program you've made them to peak for the clean and jerk at their important race is going to get them there. And they need to trust me that what I'm telling them for a line or sled setting, or they need to back off their physical training this week is for the right reasons.
Yeah. So with that Asian culture there, everything was a little bit different because you were saying that their rest days were certainly a lot more intense than a Canadian rest day would be. So kind of what would be the day-to-day lifestyle of the athlete there outside of training? Because we know to be a top-performing athlete, you still have to train very hard every day, but what's everything looking like outside of that?
So like when in season or preseason, generally fixed breakfast time. It was always 7:30. Coaches and staff didn't have to go. Generally we went because it was good to eat with the team.
Yeah.
Always 7:30. They usually had something after breakfast, depending on where we were, where they were at. It could be just a core session, could have been stretching and core, sometimes something else. Just depended. Then like hypothetically, so after that, there'd be come back, immediate lunch, They always had mandatory rest after lunch. Mandatory is probably a little strong, but we always took a break after lunch,
Yeah.
physical training. Then we went into video review, then dinner, and then if we needed more review after. And then if it was an off day with no sliding, it was one of two things. We always had one day where everyone was off, staff, physio, athletes, full rest day. Generally, that was every 2 weeks, just based on the schedule. But if it was an off day and they had physical training, same thing, breakfast 7:30, little post-training. If they could get the gym before lunch, they'd go before lunch. If the schedule was really good and we were in a location that was accessible, it could be morning sprints, lunch, rest, weights, dinner, and then maybe a team meeting.
Yeah.
But the whole day was very structured. And I have to say I liked it was same breakfast time no matter where we were, always 7:30, unless we had to be up like at 5 for a race.
Mm-hmm.
And always have a rest after lunch. And the mandatory rest day for the staff and everyone, I think really played well because, I mean, you get burned out.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like coaches were on 7 days a week, even though there's off days, like you're thinking, you're planning. And the off day, you know, if we were in a good location, we go for a dinner, team dinner.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's good to give the staff and all that support team an off day as well because, you know, the athlete's doing all the physical training, but all the staff is still having that mental stress all the time of having to plan and having to coordinate everything.
Oh, and if you're a team physio,
oh boy,
you don't get any time off.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because I'm sure on their days off, the athletes are like, okay, I'm going to go to physio all day.
When I worked with Canada, I gave the team Cairo a full day off, and he was in shock. I was like, no, you're off today. Like, it's been a rough 2 weeks. You get 1 day to yourself. And It was like, it made a world of difference. Like, and we tend to, as coaches, forget that.
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh, physio, you're treating them 4 hours a day. That's no problem. It's like, no, that's a lot of work.
Oh, yeah. Because it's not just 4 hours a day of treating them. It's the 4 hours a day of treating them and the planning that goes into that and the paperwork.
Physios are some of the hardest working people on any sports circuit. Like, not only are they treating people, taking notes, they can be your sports psychs. They can be they're doing the jobs you always don't need. Like for bobsleigh and skeleton, they might be helping moving the sleds. They might be videoing in addition to treating. They work hard.
Yeah, wearing many hats, doing lots of extra stuff that's not necessarily their job on paper, right?
Yeah.
So, do you think a lot of like varsity level athletes in Canada and the United States could kind of take a look at what that system is and apply it to their own training and make themselves a little better? Because I know the varsity mentality, at least when you're in college in North America, is, okay, I have my practice time once, maybe twice a day. Like I have my sports specific training in the evening and maybe cardio or weights in the morning. But then outside of that, a lot of it just gets thrown out the window and they just forget about their sport and they're just doing other things.
100%. Because like, well, one, I can tell you right now, Sung Bin did not party at all. he had his goal and he was not going to let going to a party or drinking a bunch of beer get in the way.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's culturally different, but at the same token, we know the people that win do what they need to do.
Yeah.
Number two, like for sure, like if you want to be the best, whether it's bobsleigh, skeleton, weightlifting, basketball, track and field, you got to live and breathe it. Like you got to be all in. If you're not all in, you're being a bit of a tourist. You're enjoying it. You're doing the trips, you're training, you're having fun, but you're never going to be on the top unless you're one of those freakishly gifted athletes. And even then, winning like that is hard.
Yeah.
So obviously if we're in school, and you have to definitely prioritize your day to do your classes and do your studying. But if you want to be the best or at anything, you've got to go all in. You have to be 100% in. And if you're not, then maybe it's not the right thing for you, which is fine. Like,
yeah, it's not the right thing.
If you want to enjoy a sport and do it, that's great. Like everyone should do sports. Like, let's be honest, like it's good for your health. But if you want to win, if you want to put yourself on a podium, you got to live and breathe it. Like, and it's the same for coaching. Like, okay, we're not 24/7 all year round because we do have days where we just need to switch off, but every day we're doing something.
Yeah. Every
day you're watching a video, you're thinking about a program, you're thinking about a race 6 months from now. And so we're living and breathing it. And when they do too, you're both all in. So for like varsity athlete, like school, plan your school. Honestly, I think the school should be the number one focus.
Oh
Like,
yeah, for
get
sure.
that degree done. Like,
Yeah.
but you got a lot of other hours in the day. So if the choice when you get up is you can go do, you know, a morning spin with a stretch, or you can lay on the couch, drink coffee, and watch some TV. If you're making the TV choice, you're probably not making the decision that you want to win.
Yeah. And like, I mean, that's fine if you don't want to win, but if you keep telling everyone around you, you tell your coaching staff, oh, I want to win, I want to do everything I can to win, but then you're not making those choices, you're kind of just lying to yourself in that respect.
Yeah, you're all in or you're not all in. Like, you got to live and breathe it, and it's hard. Like, it's a commitment, and it takes a special person to go all the way. But I can guarantee when you do it, you're satisfied at the end.
Oh yeah, for sure. Because like that end goal, sure, it's extremely hard to get to, but at the end, no one's getting there, and then they look back and they're like, oh, I wasted all this time training.
Like, I competed for 8 years, and I went as all in as I was able to. Like, I still had to work. I never got to A-level funding, so I had to work 20, 30 hours. And I mean, when you retire, you look back and you're like, what could I have done different?
Yeah.
And I believe I got to 90%. And do I regret not doing that other 10%? No. Would it have made a difference? Yes. But yet once you're retired, you kind of look back and you're like, hey, I'm happy with what I did. I could have done these better. That 10% would have made a difference.
Yeah.
But where would have it put me?
Yeah. Because you kind of have to look at where is that extra 10% going to affect the rest of your life as well.
Yeah. And the other side of it is you can go 100% all in and you're just going to finish 15th. And if you're happy with that, that's great. But it's also taking a look at what your goal in life is.
Yeah. Yeah. Because there's more to it than just sport, right? Because there's life after sport, and there's, you know, that other 20 hours in the day when you're training 4 hours a day.
Like, yeah, exactly. I always tell athletes, like, if you're all in, you're all in. You have my 100% support, but have a balance. Like, know what you're going to do. And it kills me when I see young athletes who are all in at 20, working 10 hours at wherever and living and breathing the sport, but they're living off of minimal stuff, and their plan is to go to the Olympics, win a medal, and be rich. And it's like, hey, think
It's not
this
quite how
through.
that works in Canada.
Yeah, I mean, for every person that fails, you get a John Montgomery who wins a gold, and he's done really well. He's a TV host. But for every guy like that, there's somebody who's $100,000 in debt from sport.
Yeah.
Like, you got to be smart. Like, do your school, look at your plan, have a plan. Like, Canada's got some new programming called Game Plan that's trying to help athletes to get up into the sports system, so you actually have a life after sport plan. I'm all for all in, but also, like, look at the big picture and talk to people. Know that there is stuff after sport. Like, you have to know that.
Yeah.
And two, you can't have a life after, so you got to do both at the same time. You have to know. And I think if you want to chase an Olympic podium, you have to be all in, but go to school.
Oh yeah. I think that's one of the best things to do with your time while you're training to be an athlete is be in school, because that's going to keep you away from other distractions if you're focusing on your school and not just like the social and party aspect of college in North America, right?
And it gives you structure.
Yeah.
Like, you have that structure, and when you generally, like, I know weightlifting from talking to you and Rob, and a lot of sports, like, your training might be at 5 p.m.
Yeah.
So it's 5 days. So what are you doing all day? It's sunny out, middle of the summer. What are you going to do? If you actually are going to school and working, it's creating that structure for you.
Yeah.
Because most high-level sports, like, they're not going to give you a 10-hour day plan.
Yeah.
You're expected to be a professional and adult, but we all love downtime.
Yeah. And that's one thing that I kind of got from talking to Rob, is that there would be a few bobsleigh athletes that, yeah, they'd have their 5 to 8 p.m. practice or whenever their practice was in the day. But then other than that, they would just go home and play video games till like 4 a.m.
The original were Rob's equipment. We had the first ever garage gym of our, like, bobsleigh skeleton group that now have all the equipment. We had people, I had probably 7 different bobsledders live with me over the 7 years I was there. And you could definitely tell which ones were the most disciplined, and they went to the Olympics, and one of them won an Olympic gold medal.
Yeah.
And then like they went to the training and they went about it, but playing video games from 9 till 2 in the afternoon. Oh, training's at 5. Better take a nap. Well, you just played 5 hours of video games. You're probably not primed for a sprint workout.
Yeah, because those video games for 5 hours is just destroying your neurological system, right?
Oh,
You can play for like an hour or two and you can stimulate your neurological system and then let it rest before training. But if you destroy it before training, it's not going to be recovered.
yeah, it's like, so you can kind of tell the people that have the behaviors, and then when they get, the school gives them the structure, and then you run into the guy that just doesn't need it. He is disciplined. He's up at 9 stretching. He's making his healthy lunch, his healthy dinner, his healthy breakfast. Oh, he played 1 hour of video games, watched a movie, stretched, like follows a routine that puts him in position for every training session to be good.
Yeah. Yeah. Who just makes his own structure. Right. And I mean, that's always an option, but that's so difficult to do. You have to be so disciplined for that.
There's not a lot of us are able to do that. Like I wasn't. I needed to work and have something to create structure, but that's just my personality. But if you can recognize that you're like that, it gives you a leg up. And like us as coaches, we need to engage athletes. If we see that, we're like, hey, this guy's like got the physical tools and he's got the skill, but he's struggling a little bit with the structure. Like let's sit down and talk.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where we can step in and just offer tools to, build a structure for them. Because if they don't have a structure or school, we can be the structure.
Exactly. Like we as coaches, like we need to give them the skills and the tools in their toolbox to put them in position to win. Like I truly believe our goal is to do everything we can to put them in position to win on the day.
Yeah.
And then they have the confidence and the trust in us, and then it's up to them.
Yeah.
Like we can't push the sled, drive the sled. You can't go lift the weights or do the jerk, or we can't go run the sprint race. Like we have to give them the tools, and they have to trust us, and we have to trust them to put them in the position to win.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, there's only so much that we can do, right? We can't hold their hand through the event, but we can give them the tools, we can give them the opportunities, we can give them the structure that they can use to put themselves in that position.
Exactly. And I mean, if we live and breathe it and create that winning environment and that high performing and excellence environment, and we are living and breathing it, they're going to pick up on it, and athletes will gravitate and pull from that. And then they'll know, oh, our coaches are all in. Like they're up 20 hours a day getting us ready. Like I'm going to be ready. I'm going to do everything I can. And then on the day, regardless if they win, lose, draw, come 5th, win a bronze, gold, if everybody knows you put all that effort in, then you can accept the result.
Oh yeah.
Even if it's a sour taste or joyous, like you just know, like I did everything I can. My athlete did everything they can, and this is the result, and we own it.
Yeah. That's where you can kind of get that sour taste, I guess, from not getting the placing you wanted, is if you didn't put in that 100% effort.
Yeah. And I mean, that's why I really love working with athletes that put all the effort in, but I also love the ones that aren't at 100% effort, because generally they want to get there and they'll engage you and they want to learn, like, okay, what else can I do?
Yeah, when you have that athlete that they know, they're self-aware that they're not at 100%, but they're like, hey, coach, how do I get there?
Exactly. And those athletes they're a lot of fun, because like you got to look outside your own skill set. It's like, okay, this person's struggling. What can I do? Oh, I don't know a lot about that. We seek out more knowledge, or we
those are the athletes that force you to grow as a coach.
Yeah. And I mean, if you got every athlete that was 100% all in, one, we'd become obsolete.
Yeah.
and two, like we'd never get better. Like coaches want to get better. We want to learn.
Yeah.
We want to improve. Any coach who says they know everything probably should quit coaching.
Yeah. Because every once in a while, you'll get that athlete that's 100% in and they have all the natural talent. And you kind of just sit back and you're like, okay, they're great. What did I do? Right?
If you do your job, by the time the athlete gets to the podium, you're really the sounding board.
Yeah.
You're the sounding board. You're kind of like the guy there that like is just tweaking. You get to the point where you're barely coaching, and then you've done your job. And you've done right by them, and you've given them everything. Like once you've given them everything and they achieve a result, you're like, okay, that was worth the sacrifices.
Oh yeah, for sure. like earlier on in your relationship with an athlete, the more coaching you're going to end up doing with them, right? Because they're going to know less. And then as you progress, as they start to get to know more, kind of the less you have to give them.
Yeah, like exactly. Like Rob coached me for a couple of years, and as we went, it was like more like I'd bounce ideas off him, be like, "Oh, I know I did that wrong," and I mean, we've been friends a long time, so it was like quicker, but still, it was the same thing. Year one was this, year two, year three, and when I coach, if I'm with an athlete for 3-4 years, by year four, like it's 20% me coaching, and the rest is them.
Yeah.
But that's when you also know they're gonna achieve a result, because if they've soaked it all up and they're driving themselves, it's pretty fun to watch.
Oh yeah. It's fun to watch. It's fun to know that you've had that impact on them and been able to help put them in that position.
Exactly. Like we don't coach for their glory. We coach to help them get there.
Yeah.
And the more you're in the background, the more you've done your job, in my opinion.
Yeah. Because like on the day of the Olympics, you don't need to be in there completely directing them and babying them, right? They should be able to know exactly where they're supposed to be and how to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Like I remember at the Olympics with Sungbin, I just checked in with him both days. You good? Good. Questions? Nope. See you at the bottom.
Yeah.
Day one, we talked after each run, like 30 seconds. Run three, nothing needed to be said. Run four, I handed him a flag and I ghosted, because that was his moment. It's not your moment.
Yeah.
It's none of our moments. We did our job, and that's where it is.
So do we have anything else to talk about there?
I think we covered like a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, I think we got a lot. So what are you doing now mostly? Because I know you're done with Korea, but you are moving on to work with Great Britain.
Yeah, currently, well, obviously with COVID, everything's
Yeah.
a little interesting. Currently, I'm doing. I've got like some performance projects, some projects, preparing them for the Olympics, some technology stuff. So there's some coaching, some working on the tech, and then there's some like other stuff that just involve like preparing the team. So it's a little bit different, but it's exciting work. So I mean, you got to adapt. We can't go anywhere. Like
Yeah.
I don't know if we're going to even have racing before Christmas. So a lot of online meetings and just, preparing everything we can. So, because Great Britain definitely focuses on the Olympics. So it's all about preparing for that. So my area is kind of focusing on all that and getting ready for it. And we'll go from there. Like, hopefully we have a season and I'm back on ice coaching, but I'm prepared to do whatever.
Yeah. What's kind of some of that new tech you guys are working on?
Well, new tech, I just mean I'm working on like teaching the athletes like what to do on the ice, like make their best choices. I call it tech just because it's skeleton speak.
Yeah. Okay.
It's nothing super interesting. It's just like an athlete in a sled or like a unison thing. So talking about, okay, and the pressure, you're doing this, are you feeling this? It's a lot of feeling based stuff.
Yeah.
So not super interesting if you don't know skeleton. I just use that word.
Yeah.
Because we gotta, like, what can you do? You're online, so you're doing we're having meetings, and you're just like, hey, you gotta talk about what you're gonna feel, what you're gonna look for. If you feel this on your body, this that. Honestly, like I said, not super interesting if you don't know skeleton.
Yeah. Do a lot of these athletes still have places to train? Like, do they have access to their own equipment or to the training center there? Or are they kind of just stuck at home?
In as far as I know, in Great Britain, no, they're the same as us. Gyms are closed. Everything's closed. I've seen on Instagram, actually, I think Germany and Korea, they have access to some stuff.
Yeah.
I think the States is the same. Like we're all shut down, and I couldn't be 100% sure, but I don't think gym and training facilities for anyone, athletes or everyday people, are going to be open for quite a while.
Yeah, because at least in Alberta here, gyms are basically last on the list of everything to get opened.
Yeah, and my brother's in BC, and it's the same there. And I mean, the UK hasn't even entered phase one.
Yeah. Yeah, and we're going to start phase one here on next Monday, maybe.
I know leading up to 2020 getting canceled, singular athletes that were going to compete were allowed in with their coach, and they had to sanitize. I don't see that being acceptable now,
Yeah.
but we're at the mercy of what the government says. Like I'd be surprised in any of like Canada, US, UK, if any sports got permission to go into a gym when others are not allowed. It'd be a pretty, I think it would be a pretty big double standard for everyone.
Yeah.
Like we need to do what's best for society right now. Like as
Yeah.
much as I want to be back coaching and want the athletes ready and we're all passionate about it, we're kind of in the middle of a pandemic.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. That kind of makes it hard to even look forward and start to plan anything, because if we don't know what the end point is, it's hard to work back. So then
Well, yeah, and
at that
I
point,
mean, a lot of
forward.
yeah, and a lot of athletes have gone out and bought their own equipment, and like month of rest, you can do cross training, you can make up workouts, you can buy equipment, and like to be honest, like for us, we can utilize this time.
Yeah.
Like it's an opportunity to utilize the time and create more of a relationship with your athletes, work through all that stuff that gets pushed to the back burner, because like what happens in any sport in any season, everything gets tossed out and you focus on sprint faster, lift more weights, jump higher, chase the result. But now we have this time, okay, what are all the bolt-ons that we haven't been able to do?
Yeah. Stuff like the sports psych, the injury management, mobility.
Performance planning, like maybe you need to spend time reading a book that is giving you a different mindset. Maybe you've got a new athlete you've only been with for 4 or 5 months. Okay, well, let's have a weekly meeting and talk to them. Let's like learn about them and figure out everything to do to put them in position. Like I'm using the time to learn my athletes, but also like professional develop just to get more skills to make them better.
Yeah.
It's definitely more of a challenge for some of the summer sports that had that Olympics that's now been kind of canceled.
Yeah.
Moved on. So it's a different, you got to reframe the mindset. But for winter sports, we're kind of in that, like, let's use this time for all that stuff we've missed.
Yeah. Cause I guess you would be in the summer now, the off season, and you're still a few years out. So you still have all that time. So it's not.
Yeah. They definitely are all feeling behind in the physical training, which completely sucks. And I completely agree. But what else can we do? What can we do to make them better?
Yeah.
What can I work on? What can I learn? What can they learn? I mean, I guess if we drag into November, we'll probably all be chomping at the bit. But for now, we just got to utilize the time and do our best.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we've covered basically everything on our list there.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on, Charles. Thanks for talking.
No problem. It was fun. I'm always down to talk theory of everything.
Yeah. And I mean, especially now with the pandemic when we're all stuck at home, like doing stuff like this is lots of fun.
Yeah, and enjoy the rest of your Sunday.
Yeah, you too.
It's Mother's Day, so I got to go get some steaks.
Yeah, same here. Yeah, we're gonna go barbecue with the family, 3 meters apart.
Well, enjoy.
Yep.
Have a good one.
Yeah.